peas went absolutely effing everywhere. Welcome to Unhinged Internet, where disasters strike when you least expect them, sometimes in the form of frozen peas. Here's how one mug toss turned a peaceful office floor into a fortress, complete with executive meetings, security upgrades, and decades-long mystery. This is the Pea Incident. Think I effed up by making my office enact martial law due to my cooking. 8 years ago, when I was a 20-year-old intern in the office I now work in full-time, I made a horrible mistake. I'd been there for maybe a month, and I was loving it. But outside work, I had zero skills. I hadn't learned how to cook anything, and I'd just improv my way through food. So whenever I made soup, I'd just dump a crapload of frozen vegetables whole into a giant mug of broth and microwave it. My department shares a floor with HR, and it's basically a long hallway of office doors on each side with a tiny kitchenette in the middle. It was a Saturday, and I went in to do some work, so I was the only person on the floor. I'd packed a soup for lunch, which I'd made by dumping a whole bag of frozen peas in one of my comically large ceramic soup mugs and adding some broth. At around noon, I chucked it in the kitchenette microwave, and somehow, within a few minutes, the broth got to borderline boiling, and for some reason, when I reached to get it, I grabbed my soup not by the handle, but by the mug itself. My hand had that delay between registering intense pain and reacting to it, and in that time, I'd taken the soup out of the microwave, swung, turned, and was holding it over the floor of the hallway. I screamed. I dropped the mug. Whatever, right? It's just a mug. I could just clean it up. Imagine. What a world that would be. Instead, when the mug hit the floor, it shattered, and good God, the peas. I know there couldn't have been hundreds of them, but it genuinely looked like it. It was like a grenade of peas that exploded into 20 power washers, blasting peas in every direction. I guess the heat also hardened them or something, because they were like little rubber bullets, bouncing every direction insanely far down both sides of the hallway, with more buoyancy than I thought anything edible could have. The peas went absolutely effing everywhere. And remember those awkward too small doors? Yeah, turns out there's a giant 2-inch gap between the bottom of them and the floor, which is more than enough space for 50 peas to jettison themselves under every single doorframe and rocket to the backs of each office, way beyond where I could reach them, even with a huge stick, which I also didn't have. I've asked myself so many times over the years, in what effing world were you going to eat all those peas? Was it 2 entire bags of frozen peas in there? All I could do was force myself to stop crying, mop up the broth in the hallway, and retrieve the maybe 5 out of 5,000 peas that hadn't gone under one of 10+ locked office doors for basically everyone in HR. I scrubbed the floors, collected every tiny sliver of the mug corpse in a bag, and threw it out in a public dumpster 30 minutes away. Then I went home and thought to myself, maybe they won't notice. Thus began the Pea Incident, our department's ground zero. The biggest thing that ever happened in the office to this day. All anyone talked about for weeks were their theories about who broke in on the weekend and put such an insane amount of peas in everyone in HR's offices and how they did it. I vehemently agreed with everyone who suspected my least favorite office alcoholic. They called a series of executive meetings about a security issue and oversight in staff safety. There were so many presentations. I remember an executive asking, "What if it isn't peas next time? What if it's anthrax?" I sat in meeting after meeting about it, taking the worst notes I've ever taken because my hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. Everyone had to start locking their office doors whenever they left, even if they're just going to the bathroom or popping out for a second. They put additional scan locks on all the doors to the entire floor, and everyone still needs a special key fob to get the elevator to open on the right floor. I developed stomach ulcers from the stress and barely slept for months. I was so terrified that someone would find out it was me. I've been scared for almost a decade as my internship became a freelance position, then several contract positions, then a part-time permanent role, then finally full-time permanent, and the stakes just kept getting higher. But thankfully, due to the pandemic and super high turnover rates, slowly over the last 8 years, everyone who was there for the P thing has left, and the thing that I desperately needed to be forgotten was lost. P history became P legend. P legend became P myth. And for 2,500 years, the ring passed out of all knowledge. Until yesterday, because effing Carol, not her real name, is back covering a mat leave. And Carol asked me yesterday if I remember the P's. I said, no, I must have blocked the memory out because I am highly allergic to peas. She said she still wonders who did it. She's here for another 8 months at least, and I cannot let her catch me. F you, Carol. I effing hate peas. And that, dear listener, is how a single mug of soup peas turned a chill office Saturday into a full-blown security crisis. We're talking locked doors, executive briefings, and what might be the most overblown vegetable incident in corporate history. Meanwhile, our intern turned ghost pea sniper is out here gaslighting HR, dodging blame like a Cold War spy, and developing stress, ulcers over legumes. And just when you thought it was safe to microwave again, Carol comes back from maternity leave, asking about peas like she's investigating a crime scene. No one is safe. You've been listening to Unhinged Internet, where the chaos is real. The stakes are absurd. And apparently, peas are the greatest threat to corporate security since the invention of the office coffee break. Smash that subscribe button like it's a mug full of explosive vegetables. Or prepare for your own office uprising. Because these peas don't just roll away quietly. They come back with a vengeance. Now go check your kitchen for any rogue peas before they start plotting their next attack. Like, subscribe, and tell your coworkers you're allergic to vegetables. Trust no one, not even Carol.